Welcome to On the Couch, the podcast where real conversations meet real change. Pull up a seat, get comfortable, and join us as we dive deep into the conversations that matter most to Black and Brown communities. Hosted by Dr. Diamond and an incredible lineup of co-hosts, On the Couch brings you raw, insightful, and empowering discussions, from mental health and wellness to entrepreneurship, life insurance, healthcare, and everything in between. Our mission is simple: to educate, uplift, and create space for conversations that need to be heard. Whether you're here for practical advice, motivation, or just a dose of inspiration, you've come to the right place. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about the things that shape our lives, our futures, and our communities. This is On the Couch, where we keep it real, keep it relevant, and keep it moving. Let's get started.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to On the Couch with Dr. Diamond and her fabulous co-host. I'm waiting on my co-host to come in, but while we are waiting, I just want to tell you that we have a fabulous author that we're about to talk to. Her name is Markia Ashley Moore, and I am very interested in learning about the spiritual suicide, the dangers of not knowing who you are. Now, as a mental health therapist, I talk about that a lot. The first question I always ask everyone is, who are you? And I find that especially those that are from the African American community, we have a very difficult time describing to someone else who we are. And it could be, and I do believe a lot of it could be trauma, experiences that you've been through. No one ever shaped you so you know who you are, to develop into who you are. It takes time to understand who you are and know that you're going through milestones. And each one you go through, you begin to identify who you are becoming. So think about when you're an infant. When you're an infant, you're exploring your world. Right? You don't know nothing about this world. You were just born into it. You look at all of these people who are taller than you. They're walking around, they're picking you up, carrying you around, and you're still like, who are these people? But the first person you're going to identify with is your mother, because that's the person that carried you all that time. This is the person you'll begin to learn how to trust. So then that's your beginning. You begin to trust. And then you might have that one person that made a mistake and just dropped you. And then you begin to not trust that person. So then you begin to identify, I trust mommy. I don't trust this person because you dropped me. So then that's just a simple example of identifying and learning, who you are. That baby is now learning what trust is, what's trust, life. So can you imagine as you go through and how you start developing and becoming this person that's supposed to be shaped into what in the end? So that's what we're going to learn today. So I'm very excited about, learning about, again, spiritual suicide. What is that? And how did she come up with this title? So without further ado, I am going to bring Markia on, and we are going to talk to her and get to know her in our few hours together on the Couch. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you this morning?
I'm well. How are you?
I am well also, living a dream, right? We get up every day, we pray that we're on this side of the earth, not leaving and our family members. So I'm thankful that we're up, we're talking to each other, we're looking at each other today, where those that have lost someone, we pray for them, and that they pray for their healing.
Yes.
So I see that, first of all, I want to thank Toya for actually, connecting with you, and then you accepting coming on the couch, because, this is about our Black and brown community, educating us and, getting to know what's out there for us to teach us. And, your book is going to give us the opportunity to learn something, about, again, like you have here, the spiritual suicide. But before we go there, can you introduce us to you so we get to know you?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Markia Ashley. I am from New Brunswick, New Jersey. Shout out to New Brunswick.
All right,
But-
New Brunswick.
But I moved to Georgia at the age of 21. So I call myself a Jersey peach now, a little bit of both.
All right.
So, while I was backstage, I was listening to you, and I just have to say, you are a powerful being. Like, just the first 5 words out your mouth was just gems. I was
Thank
like,
you.
oh, wow. And then your voice is very soothing. It was like ASMR. I was like, okay, this is going to be great.
Thank you.
No problem. So, my book, Spiritual Suicide, The Dangers of Not Knowing Who You Are. Okay. So, I grew up very insecure. I had the spirit of rejection following me throughout my entire life. The spirit of just feeling abandoned and unloved and unwanted. And also, of course, trauma. I actually seen myself through my trauma. That's how I identified with myself, my failures, my trauma, my mother's trauma, my father's trauma. Childhood is basically the foundation of so many things of our identity. So I actually seen myself by the things that I went through, and I was very insecure. I hated myself. I actually spent half my entire life wanting to be someone else. Like, really, I didn't see myself beautiful. I didn't even understand the purpose of life at all. Like, I just was like, why am I even here? So just, growing up as a young girl, then a teen, and then a young adult, I really, really was lost. And so, but I've always had a relationship with God. Always, throughout everything, I've always felt his presence. And that's kind of what kept me throughout my life. Now, what made me create this book? Now, I like to write, and so I was just in my journal, like just journal writing. And at this time, I was in my 30s, but I still felt like that little girl. I still was that little girl inside. I was growing up in age, but my mindset was still a teenager searching, because I mean, that's what we do. Like you said, some people are, in childhood, some people are taught love. They're taught how to love. Some people are taught the opposite, this word curses all over us saying you ain't never going to be this. You're going to be just like this. And you start believing that, you start really, I remember, when I was young, people telling me I was dumb, and I actually believed that. Like, I stopped doing stuff in school. I'm like, well, why? I'm dumb, so I received a lot of negativity, and I started believing all those things. So back to when I started this book, I was working for a millionaire couple, and I was looking at their lives, and I'm like, how did y'all get, like, they're traveling to Dubai, they're eating foods I've never seen before. And I started becoming very jealous and envious, because I'm like, what's so special about them? Like, what about me, God? Like, and so the Holy Spirit just led me to do a fast, which I've never done in my life. I've never was taught how to do a fast. And I'm a foodie, so I know God wasn't telling me to starve myself. So I was like, what? Water? Like, I couldn't do it. But I was so fed up with life. I think that's what you have to get to, is get fed up. And I did it. And when I tell y'all, the revelation that came to me was just off the hook. Like, I was able to see life from God's perspective. And he showed me why he allowed, because sometimes we go through things and we think, well, God did this, God did that. No, God probably allowed it, But we don't give Satan no credit. He just, he just out here doing whatever he want, and we just blame God for everything. But what God does is, what the enemy meant for bad, he'll turn around for good. So he was showing me that although I went through all this stuff, he was molding me to become a leader so that I can teach someone, because don't nobody want to hear you speak about nothing if you ain't been through it.
Yeah.
Because don't talk to me about it. Like, what are you going to talk to me about? So I went through things. The things I went through wasn't even for myself. It was for my assignments. That's what I call them. These young girls who are my assignments. So I finally accepted that. I was like, oh, so this is not like a punishment towards me. This is to help another assignment. So I started writing my journal, and I started just writing just writing. And I came up with the title because I would be at work and I would look at my time clock all the time. Like, I'm like, when is 5 o'clock going to be here? And I was stuck in between of, I got to pay my bills, but I know there's something great in me, but I have to pay my bills. So Father, what do you want from me? Like, I don't know how to do it. And the Holy Spirit came into me and it said, what you're doing is spiritual suicide. You are committing spiritual suicide. Because let me tell you how. I am at a place that I'm miserable at. I could have found value in that. It's people I could have talked to there and introduced them to God, but I wasted my time waiting on time, and I would go home and I would do meaningless things. I would be on TikTok all day, Instagram all day, Facebook all day, watch TV all day, and I wasn't pouring into my spirit, man. I'm wasting my time. So I was doing a whole bunch of meaningless things. So the Holy Spirit directed me and said, you are committing spiritual suicide. Spiritual suicide is self-destruction. When you are living beneath God's purpose for you, you are doing everything else but learning who you are. And I fell into Satan's trap because his whole, Hosea 4:6 says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. That's not them people. That's his people, which is us. So that verse stood out to me because he's saying, it says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. That means that what you don't know is going to harm you. What you don't know is going to hinder you. And what you don't know is going to destroy you. So if I don't know who I am, how can I walk in my purpose? So I started seeing all this stuff of the trap of the enemy. He tried to distract me. He tried for me. He wanted me to identify myself by my trauma and not my purpose. So that's the second title, The Dangers of Not Knowing Who You Are, because it's dangerous when we are waking up every day doing meaningless things, not walking in our purpose and not knowing who we are. So that's where I got the title.
That's very powerful. That is very powerful. And you listened. Listening it sounds like you had to sit still to hear what was going on from God, right? Because you were not adhering to the message. You were like, okay, I'm gonna still do what I want to do, right? And then one day you said, but actually you were forced to sit down. And that's why you had to listen to what your assignment was. And I do agree with assignment, that God puts us all on different assignments, and we have to become mature enough to understand the assignment, to activate it. Because if you're not mature enough to receive it, you're not going to do it. Exactly. Because you don't even know what you're doing, right? Because you're not mature enough. So when you reach that point where you're like, oh yeah, I can take this assignment, I know what I gotta do, you just keep on going with it. So I think you did what you were supposed to do, is listen. Did we lose her?
I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, because she looked on my end, she looks dark, like she's gone.
Yeah.
Do you see her?
Kia, I don't know, maybe she'll
I think we lost her.
Yeah,
so until she comes back, how you doing, Toya?
You know what? The enemy was on me this morning. I don't like to give it that, but my father lost someone, so I had to, represent. And it's a lot to do. And it's where I'm a multitasker. And what I have to really get set in that's me. April, I said this morning, cross my T's, dot my I's. But what I'm learning now is that sometimes things are on our plate to see what I'm going to do. Am I going to react or I'm going to respond? So my response today, you know what? I'm here. All the folks that need to be in place. I'm just a little tardy. And I'm just blessed because when I was coming back and I picked this book up, and someone had gave me this book in 21. Look, in 21, it was given to me. And when I go on my trips, I said, you know what? I need to have my reading material. I don't know how my vacation is going to be. And here, I picked this book up. Your Auntie Dawn bought me this. She gave it to me as a Christmas gift in 2021. So I always take it, and I read it. But when I read it this time, after the brink of my 48th birthday, it opened my eyes. And I did the post. You see how God works? And I just know, because I know this young lady since she was young, my neighbor. She would visit. I had a god sister that lived next door. And I'm looking and I'm like, wait a minute. Then I did the ads for Dawn when she ran for queen. And I said, you see how things are connected? 10 years younger than me. And I watched her bloom. And, you know, I don't want to put up, but her family is in the airwaves, as you know, but I'll let her tell. This family has greatness within it. Her mother's strong. Her mother's a survivor. So, you know, that was someone that I grew up modeling. And I just remember Jackie coming with her beautiful 2 children, Markia and Marquise, right?
Yeah. And we have an older brother, Aaron.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm just remembering and how life unfolds. And I just feel that this was not a mistake. It was not a mistake for me to read that, because I think that, you know, once you're going through a lot, I had a lot of losses. I lost my grandbaby this year.
I'm sorry.
It was hard for me because was waiting to be a grandma. Didn't share that, but God saw fit to do that. And from there, I've been kind of wandering around trying to figure out what it was. And when I read your book, I said, you know what, knowledge is power. And just going through everything. I'm gonna let her unfold her book, but the point is, it was meant for us to be here today. I believe that part of it, despite me having to multitask as I always do, I was able to pay respects for a queen and still be here. And that's the whole thing. I feel that sometimes when we have a lot on our plate, what I have been doing the last couple months is just working day by day. But when I overwhelm myself looking at what I have, I can't execute. But I know I have visions. I know I have thought processes. Sometimes I also feel different. But I know that it's in my soul. And once I learn to listen to that, it's giving me a comfort that I did not understand. You know, God, why have you allowed this to happen? Because you already said it, kid. We're gonna keep going into this fields conversation of emotions and challenges and a journey of where you are today.
So where I am today, where am I? Well, I can tell you that my mind is alert. I'm vigilant. And who I am now, I'm finally happy. Like joy though, because I feel like happiness come and go. Joy is more permanent. You know, when things don't go right, I still wake up with joy in my heart because I do feel so blessed. I mean, the enemy tried to take me out at birth. So for me to be 38 years old and I'm here, what I realized I had to do was I had to recreate a healthy self-image of myself, because the one that I had was just tainted, you know. So I had to allow God to show me who I was and not allow men to show me or tell me, not allow my finances, my credit score, none of that. I could not identify with that. I had to ask God, Lord, show me who I am from your perspective. Still go through things, but the way I react to them is different. I grew up very angry. I was mad at the world. I mean, people will probably tell you stories like, ew, like my attitude was yuck. I hated living, you know, and misery. My crazy thing is my misery didn't want company though. Like I just was like isolating myself, but I mean, if you looked at me wrong, I was ready to fight. I was fighting. Like because it was a battle inside. It was chaos inside. But now I have a peaceful mind and I actually care about others. Like before it was just a selfish me. What can I get from you? Now I'm like, how can I be a blessing to you? You know, even when things happened in my life that I don't like. Someone talked to me different. I don't even, before, like, you couldn't even talk to me crazy because I'm literally trying to fight you. Now I'm like, this person is experiencing trauma, and he has or she has soul wounds that are unhealed. So deal with this person with compassion, because no one taught this person how to communicate, how to love. They don't know. And that's who I was. So now when I deal with people, it's straight up compassion. Trust me. Like, I work for a staffing company, and it's a second chance company. And we deal with homeless people. We deal with transitional people in jail, out of jail. And you have to have a lot of patience. And the way I look at them is, I'm not better than them. First of all, we all about 2 checks away, so I humbled myself before the Lord, so I don't look at people like I'm better than you. Absolutely not. Because another thing that I learned in this season was, don't judge someone by the current season that they're in. It don't stay winter forever. Seasons will change. It's times I was up and it was times I was down. So I just have to, stay consistent with my compassion and my love for God, because that's what's really keeping me through. Like I said, everything is not perfect, but I'm so grateful. I'm currently still praying for my husband. Lord, maybe may him be in transit. But I have me and my dad, like, we have a good relationship, but I never felt loved. And so when I started getting into the dating world, I felt like I had to pursue my dad. So when I started dating guys, I thought I had to pursue men, and I didn't know how to really date. I thought, oh, well, I need to pursue him. So when I tell y'all, my whole perspective in life is different. I'm not just waiting on my husband, I'm preparing for him. And I think it's 2 different things. I'm not just sitting around, I'm preparing for him. And also, God is showing me how to be a wife already. I need to be a wife before I get the ring. So I am doing a lot of stuff. I got a lot of moving pieces, but my life right now is better because I've healed from my soul wounds. I've forgiven people. I had a heart full of wrath and rebellion and unforgiveness, and I asked God to help me. So I don't have any ill will anymore. So I feel like a life of freedom right now.
Yes,
That's
awesome.
great. I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
So again, this is pertaining to your book. So you describe spiritual suicide as the danger of not knowing who you are, which is what you described when we first began. What does that concept mean to you, and how did it show up in your own life?
Not knowing who I am? So when you don't know who you are, the world is going to eat you up alive. And I was put in situations where I shrunk. I was in buildings with some great people, and I shrunk, not knowing you great just like them, honey. You better stand up tall. But I didn't know. I've messed up opportunities because I didn't know who I was. I was so insecure. I mean, that insecurity, oh my, it's such a bondage. I just shrunk. I seen myself shrinking, and it's disgusting for me personally, because Satan was winning in my life. I was glorifying Satan with my fear and my insecurity. You know what I'm saying? And I just shrunk. I rubbed shoulders with some great people, and I just thought, oh man, I'm just so blessed to be around you. No, ma'am. I mean, yeah, I'm blessed, but we both great, So there's doors. I've tried to do the acting thing. I played Left Eye's cousin in the TLC movie, and on set with Little Mama and all them, shrunk. They was asking me questions. I was over there like, yeah, okay. Mind you, God gave me a voice. I need to be over here like, yes, girl. And I was over there like, yeah, okay, no problem. So when you don't know who you are, you immediately by default settle for less, period. So I was settling for less in every relationship, job. I was accepting beneath my purpose. And that's dangerous. People can play you. If I'm worth a certain amount and you try to negotiate my worth, I'm losing. You're winning, because my worth is not to be negotiated.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know that. So I was always on the short end of the stick, because I should have said, if they're saying, I mean, I remember, just at the flea market and stuff, you negotiate at the flea market because it's, oh, this shirt is $10. Oh, I'll give you $5 for it. They like, all right, give me $6. That's what I was doing in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And God showed me, what are you doing? This stuff should not be negotiated. Your heart should not be negotiated. Your words should not be negotiated. So to answer your question, it destroyed my life because I was ending up with nothing. With nothing.
Yes. And I think that happens a lot. I know sometimes people will look at us as women, they'll see beauty, but not the inner soul. And at times, I believe I have shrunk myself. Mm-hmm. And when you are going through so much, and when you say suicide, when your spiritual self is shaky, you're unsure. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we have to listen to is our soul and our spirit. And I feel that when I do listen to that, that's when I win. But when you question, then that's when you have to keep moving forward. As they say, hurt people. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think that a lot of the listeners have felt that way. And sometimes we don't want to admit it. Mm-hmm. And I can just say from personally for myself, going through some injuries, going from a small woman to a big woman, then back to a small woman. Then I'm like, wow, I had to learn to love myself as my new body. But through perseverance, you exercise, and now I'm starting to look like myself. Then the question, are you taking Ozempic? Are you doing this? Those are the comments that I got. Sit back and say, as a woman, I can't do it the natural way. So there's a lot of things that we deal with. And again, responding is what we all need to master. But as times, the emotional self, our flesh, as they say, will make us question. But once you get closer, I know when I'm getting close, I feel that that's when it gets rocky. Yeah. Because I know that, as they say, it gets greater later. And then now as you get older, wisdom will show you, you know what? I'm going to be uncomfortable now. But later on, I'm getting close. Yeah. You understand? So once you have some life behind you, then you get more motivated. Okay, this too shall pass. Be still was one of my favorite scriptures that I know, that I have to just be still and just let everything unfold. And as you know, when you're going through turmoil in your life, sometimes he's carrying you, as the poem Footsteps in the Sand says. He's holding you. And then when you wake up, and that's when I feel, as I tell anyone, go day by day. When you're unable to grasp it all, just look at your calendar. And you know how they say when you're driving in the road and your subconscious will make a right, or you're going to your house because you have a lot in your day. But you get home, your subconscious knows how to get you there.
Yeah. And sometimes I have to go minute by minute. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Sometimes I'll be like, all right, Lord, in this moment, get me through this moment. Suicide came in because if you're not walking in your purpose, you are killing everything that God has for you. You're not walking in alignment with God. You're killing. You're literally. It's suicide. You're killing everything that God has for you, and it's serious. It's very serious.
Yes, I'm looking at some of the table. Oh, go ahead.
So I do agree with a lot of what you're saying about the spiritual suicide. Although there's not a physical thing that's happening, it's more psychological. Yes. So when you think about the psychology of the whole thing, it is a pathology that we don't need. And that pathology could be, it destroys us inside, and then we see it on the outside. Yes. And a lot of times people, think, like you just said, Toya, that we look like we're put together, but inside we're already destroyed. And then the outside, it'll start spewing out in anger, self-sabotage, just different things that you do. And that's how there's some psychological warfare that's going on, internal and outside. And I always make that connection that we did not acquire these behaviors generationally, yes, because we were destroyed as a family in the beginning when we were brought over here. No one was asked to be human trafficked over here. And then when that happened, it broke us up as a family. So then what happens is these traumas keep going on and on and on and on. So when other people inflict these things on us, we just carry these same behaviors, and it's afflicted on you.
Yes.
Myself. through these things, and then here comes cycle breaker. I'm going to take my life and where I'm going in life. So that's what I see and where you are. I don't know if you heard everything that I was saying because it was kind of going in and out.
It was going in and I was committed too. I'm like, what?
Yeah. So what I said was that based on the generation of things and the traumas that we went through, you're an example of a cycle breaker. You decided to say no more, and you took your life in your hands. You listened to your assignment, and you took it and you ran with it. And this is where you are today.
Yep. You know what ran in my family?
That's walking around and saying that I broke this and now I'm living and now I can show someone else what to do, how to live, how to.
Yep.
Yes.
I actually just wrote a post on Facebook.
Go ahead.
I said what ran in my family will run out.
So
with
what
me.
traumas? So speaking of traumas, were there
the connection is bad, April.
I'm sorry.
So again, that's you taking the bull by the horns and saying enough is enough.
Yeah.
I think your chapter 4 said dealing with the bad seeds planted in childhood. Yeah, that was one of the things. And then I thought about it and I read, I said, with most people, we don't really know what goes on, because back in the day, it was what happens in this house stays in this
house. Yes.
That was what was happening. Now, these children are a little different. This generation, you know, they pretty much, everything's at the fingertips. They can Google and see anything. Sometimes that information is not correct. And now with life happening, I'm looking at how I'm unable to really get into my current events. But now I don't know if some of the information is actually accurate. So with these children, they're looking at everything and not understanding what it was in a home. You're supposed to have family time. But when they're getting their information from the streets or their friend, then they're being misguided. And as Dr. Diamond said, the foundations, we had a show the other week about, the big mamas in the house as far as the history. As she said, we have these intergenerational thoughts. And if they're not seeding, it affects us. As you said, you said you had to pursue your father. My father is in recovery. And I can say that not having my parents, it made a difference in my life. Yeah. And as I sit back again, and I like what Dr. Diamond says, enough is enough.
Enough
and
is
we have to make sure that these babies, so I feel my assignment is mentoring. And I think that this particular platform allows us, just having something in my possession for a matter of 4 years. I needed to read it. And I read half of it, but when I read it this time, it ministered to my soul of where I was. Just going through the chapters. What is spiritual suicide, which we explained? Who are you? As you mentioned, dealing with the bad seeds planting in your childhood. Before Dr. Diamond had she has a chapter about that. So tell us about dealing with the bad seeds. And even on one of your Facebook posts I saw, you said pretty much, I am not my trauma.
Yes.
I had to say that to myself. I am not my trauma. What I have been through, that's not who I am. Who you think I am, you need to get to know me. And I know sometimes I feel that people they see your exterior, but you have not met my soul.
Right.
My new thing. One of our previous guests, Marlon E. Curtis, had the pleasure of being at his book signing last week. You got to bet on yourself. And sometimes we don't do that. And we don't take time to understand what makes us feel uncomfortable. Now, when I feel uncomfortable, maybe that the grand architect is tapping on me so I can do some accountability for myself. And not respond. I mean, not react, but respond to what's in front of me.
Exactly. So, going back to the seeds planted in childhood, the trauma, you said something, and that was the generational thing. What happens in this house stays in my house. What I've learned is that secrets create strongholds. You can't heal if something is secret. How can you heal? You're not supposed to even talk about it, which means that you can't acknowledge it, which means that you can't heal from it. I grew up in secrets. I grew up in secrets, you know, and there was so much trauma in my house, and it created resentment within my brothers, you know, even how they dealt with my mom, because they had a hatred and anger. But see, me, I took my pain and I did research with it. So I said, let me figure out how mommy was raised, because maybe she wasn't capable of loving me, because maybe no one taught her. And sure enough, my mother had trauma. And all these patterns created cycles, created generational curses in my lineage. And I said, hold on now. So what did grandma go through? What did her mother go through? And see, how the enemy wins, because he messes us up in childhood, so that child just grows up to be a messed up adult, not trusting people and feeling insecure. All these things, you know, that secret language that we had to talk, it created a punk inside of me. I was a punk. When it came to me fighting, I didn't know how to fight because I was taught to shut up. Kids are seen and not heard. So how can I tap into my power when anytime I want to speak my voice, shut up, go in the room?
Yep, shrunk. It's like this.
So that little girl grew up to be a woman, but she still was that little girl who was scared inside to tell her truth. But the truth will set us free. So if I don't tell the truth, I'm standing in bondage. So it was just a cycle, kept going. And I don't have any kids yet. I do have my niece who lives with me. But I said, Lord, thank you. Because I was about to pass this stuff down, not even knowing that I need to heal first. I need to heal. And then when I started being a young adult and being sexually intimate, not knowing them demons is on me. So now not only am I dealing with my own demons, my ancestral demons, you know, the transitions, the iniquities and transgressions of my forefathers, the people I started sleeping with, I'm dealing with them demons too, and wonder why I'm dark, depressed, and feeling disgusted. I didn't. It was too heavy for me because I didn't understand why is life so heavy, girl. People worry about transmitted sexual diseases. You better be worried about transmitted sexual demons now that is on your life, you know, that I was dealing with. And all this stuff started from childhood. So I took time in my sacred place. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. I wrote down every trauma that I could remember. When people spoke bad about me, told me I wasn't going to be nothing, people yelled at me, all that stuff causes trauma. When I was sexually violated, when I was hit and abused, I wrote that down. I wrote it down and I gave it to God. I said, Lord, take this from me. Help me heal from this stuff. I even wrote down the people I slept with. Everybody, names. Because I said that, you know, you give a piece to yourself away. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm dealing with that. I'm dealing with trauma. I wrote it all down. I wrote it down, made it plain. And I was up in the courts of heaven in God's presence. And I said, take this from me. Because now Satan can't use that against me now. Because that's what he does. He reminds you of the things that you're ashamed of, what you regret, the things that make you scared. He continues to remind you of your sin. But if you give your sin up, what can you fight me for? What is it that you can say and hold me to? So I got rid of my trauma, my childhood trauma, by doing research on my parents so that I can forgive them. I'm like, oh, well, my dad, he wasn't really shown certain things, so he couldn't love me. My mom, same thing. She had trauma. So I love y'all. I forgive y'all. Y'all did the best y'all can. I'm no longer holding on to what happened to me in 1987. I'm not doing it because I'm not going to use it as an excuse of why I'm not who I am. My trauma was not my fault, but my healing is my responsibility. And that's
yes.
Thank you.
That's right. That was very awesome about your healing. That was very, very good. And listen, as you were talking, I was listening to, you know, you are a healed person, and a lot of people don't know how to get there. But what was really standing out to me is that although the Black and Brown community, we may we learn about our culture, we learn about traditions, but you know what's also taught to us? Trauma.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. We are taught trauma because we are afflicted with it all the time. And yes, in childhood, it happens. And I can speak to that 100% because my research was about African American women and intra-racial discrimination amongst dark-skinned women. And all of them said it started in childhood. And guess where? At home. And then it's reinforced when they go to school or outside to play. So these things are, given to us directly. A lot of it is directly, because we're not going to say it's indirectly, because most of the time it is told to us to hurt us on purpose. So if a person says directly to you, you are stupid, they meant that from their core. But the thing is, another person told them that. So now, instead of encouraging you and saying, you are brilliant, you are smart, you're beautiful, you're going to go far in life. No, it's because I hurt this person, now I'm going to hurt you. So that's where Toya talks about hurt people. But you are looking at a healed person. So I do have a question about your healing, right? Yes. So how did your faith help you get to a point of your healing? And then you wrote this book. So help us out to understand, how did your faith get you there? Because you had to shed trauma and all the other things you were talking about today.
Yes, ma'am. So I am creation. So, and if you think about the world of products and all that stuff, when something's wrong with a product, you have to go to the manufacturer, not the distributor. And I had to go to the manufacturer, my creator. I kept trying to find out who I was by people who ain't create me. So I went to the source. I got in my word. I sought out God. I got to the point where I was so fed up in life. I was so fed up with feeling ugly and the spirit of poverty and lack following me and all this stuff. And I'm like, hold on, this can't be life. Jay-Z song, it gotta be more. Like, what are we doing here? So I got in my word. I turned my TV off, turned my phone off, and I got in my word. That's what helped me. And I stopped listening to outside stuff. And I started listening to what my heart, my spirit, what is God telling me about myself? It's really a day-to-day thing. I would come home from work and I would feed myself, not just my stomach, but my spirit. And I would get into my word and I started seeking out, what does the word say about me? I started learning about the promises that God has. I started worrying about the characteristics of a woman. God says that we should be of noble character. Then I started researching, what is noble character? What is that? I started researching the fruits of the spirit. We're supposed to be kind, compassionate, self-control. Those was all the opposites of what I was. I didn't have none of that. I was like, well, how do I get that? Like, do I just ask for it? And you don't just ask for it, you work towards it. You ask for it, but you work towards it. So I started thinking about what I was saying. I started realizing the power in my voice. So instead of breaking someone down on purpose and intentionally, I would build you up. Yes. Because I realized, Kia, your voice is powerful. So you could either break that person down or you could build that person up. So I will go to the grocery store and I will try to find someone. Oh, you are so beautiful. You are this. And I would try, in things I would learn, I would try to tell my sister, tell this. I started living the life that I wanted even before I truly believed it. I just started doing it and it became my routine. It became repetition. But to answer your question, I started watching what I was feeding myself.
Yep.
Yeah, I know today when it seems like when we get to that good stuff, that's okay.
I know, you see that?
Yeah, that's okay. We're gonna get
right.
that.
Can you guys see me?
Yes, we can. Listen, we learning now. We gonna keep moving.
Even in childhood, you eat what your mother eat. Babies come off. Some people are breastfed. They eat what their parents eat. And same thing spiritually, like you mentioned, Miss Toya and Dr. Diamond. We feed off our parents, what's fed to us. And so I changed up my diet spiritually. I stopped listening to secular music. I stopped watching stuff that wasn't good for my spirit. And I started surrounding myself with things that was only going to build up my spirit man. I didn't even know about my spirit man to a certain time. I didn't even know I had to feed the spirit man. I didn't know any of that. So now that knowledge, that's why Hosea 4:6 says, which, my people perish for lack of knowledge. If you don't know something, how can you work on something? You have to be in knowledge of it. And then knowledge is just information until you apply it. And wisdom is applying it. So I didn't just obtain knowledge. I started applying it. And I started slowly but surely seeing Kia change. Like, I used to hate myself. Now, I could look at myself by myself. I don't need no validation. I don't need no cosign. I can say, Kia, you are beautiful. But from inside, though, not out, because I don't look like the hell I've been through. And that's just the grace of God. That's the glory of God. But I'm on a whole different vibe now because I actually invest in my time with God. There's no shortcut, people. It's no shortcut. Trust me, I've tried it. I try to do everything else. You have to take time. It's like you in a relationship with a man. What you want to do with that man, you want to please that man. You want to do everything that makes this man happy. We got to fall back in love with God. That's what we have to do. That's the foundation. So that's what I had to do. I had to, I like quality time. I want I want to build my relationship with God. So I'm going to give him quality time, which means no distractions. I'm going to learn his word so I can know what he liked, what he disliked. And I'm going to start doing that. So that changed my whole life when I started implementing God's word into my life and wanting to please God more than I wanted to please a man, or more than I wanted to please my friends and my family, my coworkers and all that. I repositioned my life. I had a lot of idols in my life. Anything that you put before God is an idol. I had a lot of idols. So I put God back to where he needed to be, which is the center of my life, and my whole life changed.
And I agree with that.
Wow.
Because meditation is very important. And that's one of the things that's my secret place. My pastor, Second Baptist Church of Metuchen, had to get a shout out today. That's been my forever home. And the new pastor, he's from Brooklyn. And he always tells us, he said, look at this. I'm a boy from Brooklyn. And he said, look, I've been through some stuff. I didn't think I was going to be a pastor, but I'm a man. And when I tell you that I joined, he said, okay. He kept pulling. And I'm like, it's on my spirit. Like, he knew that I wanted to rejoin. And since then, you are correct, Kia, putting him first. And I think that now that I meditate in the morning, I'm able to collect my thoughts because I have this thing that I'm speaking of. I don't want to put it out there, but C is the confusion. Anything that comes that's not of God is confusion. And when I put everything into this algebraic expression, I'm able to understand that God is not of confusion. When I start my day with my meditation and my word, I have be still and know. I read that every day. It has a scripture. Then it has a little anecdotal. Then it's a prayer. Then I have another book that was given to me from a friend, Prayers for Women. It has every emotion. And when I start my day like that, I feel confident. And as you said, there was a lot of things that were not addressed. And as a younger person, and now you're sitting here, you're blooming. But I think that sometimes with the traumas in our life, we are delayed. And I look back and I said, you know what? I'm not going to be upset, Father God, that I'm delayed in my growth because I had some physical traumas, things in my life, but I'm here now. And one of the things that I heard a lot was, you're so smart, you're dumb. I said, why would somebody tell a child or say, you're so smart, you're dumb? So then you think about it. Another thing that was a comment that, sometimes it's like, are you playing in my face? And we sit back and like, Or we listen to what the kids or things they said growing up. People throw rocks to hide their hand. Don't cut your nose and spite your face. These were things that I wanted to know as a kid, but couldn't find out. You heard those, Kia? As I don't know if you heard those, but you remember we're looking around. We were seen and not heard, not understanding. But these were little anecdotals that the wise women or folks said to one another. We just didn't figure out what it was. But I was waiting for years to find out what the punchline. But then I didn't have the big mama, so I had to figure it out. And I think that sometimes we just got to forgive ourselves of what our stories are. I said, I'm starting to believe we are all vessels. We have a purpose in our life. It's just that we have to tap into it. But I noticed that when I am uncomfortable, that's when I birth things. And by you saying in your way, Kia, from a different generation, you are tapped in. You did not say, I'm accepting what my story was. I'm going to rewrite my story.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go and see what my vision is based on what he tells me. And I remember Deion Sanders. I watched him. I don't know how I tapped in. Sometimes I'm moved to listen to something. And he said, if I can't see it, I can't believe it. That stuck in my head. Think about all the dreams that you had as a kid of what you wanted. And what you just said today, how can I be blessed with my king if I'm not doing what I need to do? But you know what? We all have to just forgive ourselves and say, you know what? I was a little delayed, but I'm here now. And that's what gives me motivation. And today, by you speaking to us today, that's the motivation that we can go through what we're going to go through in our life, but that doesn't define who I am.
Yeah. And we have to understand that whoever has your ear has your mind. So we have to evaluate and do thought inventory. Who are we listening to? We're listening to someone, but we have to observe on who we're listening to. I was listening to, because word curses are real. When someone told you that you dumb, smart, whatever, someone told me I was ugly, you would believe it. We listen to someone. We just got to be in alignment with the right voice. I was listening to Satan my whole life, and I was believing him. I was receiving it, and I was acting off of that. So again, whoever has your ear has your mind. So everyone needs to evaluate who has your mind right now.
That's true. That is true. Who has your mind? Who has the bigger voice? That's the question. Whose voice is bigger here? Mine, or the person, or the Satan, as you said, or the person that raised you, the person that was around you? Who are you listening to? Because once you can still hear yourself saying you're nobody, you're this, that, and the other, that's not your voice speaking, it's the other person's voice.
Exactly.
And so when you were cowered down, when you dumbed yourself down and you're around other people, it wasn't just you doing that. It was your voice telling you you were supposed to do that, because that's all you learned to do. So, when you talk about forgiveness, I'm curious to know, did you reintroduce yourself to yourself?
I did.
How did you do it? Please explain that, because people need to know how to do that. How'd you do it?
Well, I recreated my new self-image of myself first, because that's what you have to recreate. You have to go in and recreate. You have this drawing, and then you got to add stuff, take away stuff, and then say, okay, this is this is it. So I came up against everything that was taught to me. This insecure girl, this dumb girl, all that stuff. I no longer identify with that. I don't even know who that girl is. I was like, okay, someone tell me, oh, you can't get that done. That can't. Oh, no. Well, the word says that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You know what I'm saying? So I got into my word again, and I started believing what God told me, and I started speaking to myself the way God was speaking to me. It's times I would get dressed for no reason, take pictures for not going nowhere, literally not going nowhere. And I became my own cheerleader. I didn't wait for nobody to tell me nothing. I was sitting there like, girl, you are fly, honey. It's times I walk past the mirror, I go back. Like,
you got to date yourself. You got to date yourself. That's what I date yourself.
And I didn't accept nothing. And I forgave myself right away. So if we're sinners, we're human, we do stuff. It was times I didn't lie to myself. If I felt a jealousy spirit or jealousy seed, I would go somewhere and I say, Kia, you being a little jealous right now, or you being envious right now. I would be honest with that. I would say it and girl, you ain't got to be jealous. What God has for you is for you. It's a lot of talking to yourself. In order to grow, you have to talk to yourself. Even
affirmations. Yes,
you have to water yourself. Yeah,
I am powerful. I am worthy.
The thing is that when I started, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I didn't believe it right away. I just trust God. I said, well, he see me like this. Clearly I am. I just don't see it. So the repetition of it, I would do it, and I would start facing my fears. I would get in front of people. I hated speaking because, again, I seen myself as this little punk girl. So then I started intentionally facing my fears. People say, oh, come on here. We have this. I want you to speak. And I would immediately say, yes. My language, instead of no, it was yes. I'm going to do it. So now I'm doing all these engagements, events, and I'm like, okay, Kia, you really that girl now. So I started speaking to myself the way God spoken to me, and I started facing my fears, accepting challenges, and I just do it consistently.
That's good. So how important is self-awareness?
It's very it's very important because, I mean, you have to be aware. You have to be first of all, you have to be aware of your surroundings just to know what's going on, let alone what's going on in here. You have to be aware. Just like I said a moment ago, it was times where I'm feeling insecure about somebody because I'm seeing my friend on a yacht in Dubai and I'm at work and I'm like, why are you feeling that type of way? It ain't your time yet, you know? So I would immediately be aware of how I was feeling. And then I would be like, well, why? I would dissect certain things. I didn't just avoid it. I was dealing with it as it came on head on. I'm like, here, you feeling some type of way. Why are you feeling some way? Well, you should be there. You should be on that. You at work. You know what I'm saying? Then I'm like, nope. Well, God has what God has for you is bigger, is bigger. I'm talking to myself constantly. I have to be self-aware so I know the status that I'm in. I need to know the current status that I'm in. That my current status reflects my relationship with God. It's just doing. You have to do inventory on everything in your life. It's the blueprint of your life, and being self-aware is the blueprint of your life. Just like a business who's has an accounting, they have a ledger. They have to know the current status of their numbers in order, what's going in, what's coming out, in order to know how to move forward. So self-awareness is almost like the accounting perspective of a business. You have to know the blueprint in order to know how to move forward.
Agreed. Yeah. And that could be watering. Like, I will say, who's watering you? Yeah. And it's funny that you say that about an inventory. A friend of mine said that. She said, girl, you need to do an inventory. And my friend, she's Nigerian. She said, you American woman, you always in your head. And I was like, but I needed that. And I've known her for about 12 years. And I said, So I wrote everything down. And I looked at that. And you never want to do the checks and balances, but it should not be uneven. And I think sometimes we don't pay attention. I'm a Sex and the City fan. And I remember when Miranda and her husband, Steve, remember they said meet at the bridge.
Oh, yeah,
sometimes I visualize this. If you're trying to date someone, I'm at the bridge, right? We're at the top together. Why am I reaching over to pull you up and vice versa? We should be meeting at the top of the bridge. And I remember when they rekindled their relationship, because I'm a visual person. And I said, checks and balances. So thank you for giving me that confirmation today. And sometimes we don't do that. We will want to pursue, but what I'm sorry to say, Steve Harvey's been reminding us in the airways that men like to chase.
Yeah,
that's what it is. And I think sometimes we'll hear that we're beautiful. And I said to someone, I said, well, if I'm so beautiful, well, what are you doing? Yeah. And that's one of the things that I think that when we look in the mirror, it makes us question ourselves. And now I got to look at that. If that's the case, because your actions and your words should match. That's it. And once you do that, you count yourself. Yes, I am that woman. I am that Proverbs 31 woman. And I like the fact how you said, I had to check me to prepare me.
Yeah. I mean, we do it for the grocery store. Yeah. Before I go to the grocery store, I write stuff down. I need to know what I'm out of, what I am. So when I'm going to God, I'm like, well, I think I need this. I think I do. When I go to the grocery store, I'm like, no, I know I'm out of milk. I need to restock on milk. So we have to do, and the grocery list is our self-awareness. We have to do a checklist of our weaknesses, our strengths, all that stuff, so that we can grow.
Yes. I have a question. I want to go into this book, page 38. And this is the thing that really, I'm going to read this excerpt for everyone. It says, living life to its fullest is a conscious living that strikes a sense of intentionality about life. It brings with it a deliberate act to be happy, grow, impact lives and full destiny. Chase your dreams, priorities, and passion actively, as these define true living. As humans, in the quest to become the version were made to be, we are prone of making mistakes. This is why we should always give allowances for a fresh start and creating new opportunities. Don't be stuck in whatever situation you are in, but devise ways to live the life you were created to live, even in unpleasant situations. That captivated me. Yes. So what are you doing now so that you can execute that? Because that was very influential in my reading of that excerpt.
Yes. So what am I doing now? So what I'm doing now is adding value to myself. So I went through a drought. I had a position where it was like a zombie. I felt, I was waking up, I was alive, but I wasn't living. I was a zombie. I was just existing. And again, is that this can't be life. So when I left that position, I thought I was just going to get another position, but that didn't happen right away. And I was like, all right, Lord, what we doing here? Because I got bills, I got this, I got that. And I went through a drought. So I actually enrolled in college. I already had my associate's degree, but something was just stopping me, I guess procrastination, laziness, to obtain my bachelor's degree. So when I, meditated and everything, my spirit said, you have to add value to yourself. You have to become better. So instead of me just doing this, doing that, I wanted to do it like a sense of purpose. So I enrolled in school. I am currently obtaining my bachelor's degree in business and accounting. And also what I did was I got a position that's in alignment with that. That's just for my work purposes. Now, for the other purpose, I have my niece now. So what I'm doing now is I pour into myself spiritually. I'm constantly reading stuff in my word. I'm taking time out to add value to myself. Literally in every area of my life, I am adding value to myself so that I can be seen. And I say that, back in the day, I think it was the Victorian, I don't know, don't quote me on the years, but the girls would have to go into a party, when they were called out,
Bridgerton, as far as
Bridgerton and all that stuff. You
yes,
see how they would have to get a certain dress, they would have to do all that stuff, because they would have to expose them. No one knew who they were. So they would become out, they would get together. They was like preparing this.
They would go to court.
Yes, they would go to court. So what I'm doing is that in my life, but spiritually, in other ways, I am building myself so that my value is, because when you go to a corporation, I tell my niece that now, she's just working in the workforce. If you don't add no value, why would they pick you? Like, what is it about you that is different, And like, you have to add value. Yes, I have experience in here. I've done this, I've done that. Now you're valuable. Now that you come with a company, they're not just going to be so quick to be like, well, you could go. They're going to be like, I need you. Oh, I need you because I see value in you. So I started adding value to myself. And I think it's the difference of looking like something and actually being something. There's a diamond and there's a cubic zirconium. They both look exactly alike. You will never know which one is real until you go under some time, pressure, and heat. And so my season has been time, pressure, and heat. I have been in situations where I haven't had enough. I have been in situations where, I've had more than enough. I'm building my character to have value. I forgot your question, but
it's okay. So you said in unpleasant situations, you're answering it. Basically, what you're doing is you're adding value.
I'm adding value to myself.
I'm going to see where your mind went so that the readers can really get to know you. And I do know that you do have a spin-off book. It's 30.
Good Morning, Holy Spirit. Yes, a 30-day devotional. Yeah.
Yes. So that's something else that you have under the horizon. Under your book is also available on Amazon. So right now you're basically taking, how they could say, you had lemons and you're making lemonade.
Yeah. It's I'm no longer seeing myself by the current season. I understand that seasons change. So I may have a down time, but I'm not going to stay there. I'm not going to stay stagnant. Sometimes I'm on a bench, but then I'm like, you know what, kid, get up, get in the game. I'm not a victim. Yes. You can't be pitiful and powerful at the same time. You got to pick a struggle, baby. You can't. So I'm tired of being the victim, people feeling sorry for me. Well, I can't. Well, girl, I was molested when I was 9. So, I can't do that. There's just can't. It's no more. I'm like, no, I could do all things through Christ who strengthened me. So if I got the idea to do it, that means that God has the faith in me to do it. So I'm accounted for that. And then I'm going to do it. So I'm in the season of doing stuff. I'm not sitting around. I don't even know the last time I done watched TV. I go to work. I work full time. I come home. I do assignments. I check in with my niece. We talk. We do this. We do Bible study. I am currently in a season of adding value so that I'm not just out here. Like, I'm rare, and my husband will see that. You ain't going to just find another Kia, honey. It's just not going to happen. Because I found my value. So I've tapped into my treasure. And God says that your gifts will make room for you and bring you before great men. So I'm learning my gifts. I'm learning my purpose. And I'm tapping into it.
That was very powerful. Kia, the adult Kia, has she merged with the little Kia? Have you merged the two? How did you do it? How did you get her to trust you and know that now you are in a space of healing or model healing to her? How'd you do it?
Ooh, that's a good. Y'all are some deep women now. I love this. Okay. So I had to allow little Kia to grow.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about my nieces and nephews, sometimes I look at them and I'm like, oh, I don't want you to grow. You're just so beautiful. I just love you so much. I just want you to stay the same. But that would be a disservice. They gotta grow. So when I look at the old Kia, the baby Kia is no more. She has evolved. She has evolved. That little girl is now a woman. I have arrived. So
Yeah.
now we are together. We are one. We are one now. You know, I don't. And I feel like a woman is not just. There is characteristics of a woman. A woman is responsible. She takes accountability. She does this. She does that. She does that. Little Kia could never. Little Kia could never. Kia is in the room being a victim. I'm a victor. So it's two different people now. So I just allowed her. Sometimes you got to go back to the trauma moments to get you out of that. You know, you got to get out. I had a friend who was sexually assaulted and in a basement, and she was still stuck in that basement. She was still stuck in that basement. I said, baby, we got to get out the basement. So take your mind back to this basement. And let's go. Let's walk out. Let's walk out. I said, you out? I'm out. So I'm out. I'm out. I'm not there no more. Mm-hmm. So now I'm like, whew, I'm soaring now because I'm no longer and I'm no longer there.
Yes. Excellent. That is excellent. And that is what we have to hear as Black women and brown women, that healing is possible, and know that you don't leave that little girl behind, because the little girl is the one that shows you the joy, the happiness, the inner child, right? Because that inner child we always going to need. So that's why I asked you, can she trust you now? Because you had to reparent yourself if you really want to know the truth. You did that. And you had to reparent her, so then she becomes that adult woman that you wanted her to merge into, which we are talking to today. But we also know we see the joy in you, and that's the little girl in you that is showing us the joy part of you. So I just need the listeners to know, when you go through trauma, know that what you said was spot on. You have to go back to that place, and it's very hard to go to, but go to that place with someone that knows how to guide you there, because you can open that door and you don't know how to close it. So you got to go with a professional to go through that door. And even if you're doing it by yourself, please take note of what Kia did. The writing down her trauma was the beginning of her entering that dark place, because she decided to take that and say, I'm going to face each and every one of those. And then she was able to journal about it and transfer that into a book so we can all read on about her thoughts and her experiences. So bravo to you, because not having therapeutic intervention, but it shows you that God intervention can help you get to the same ending result, which is where you are. Do you feel that you're going through ongoing healing? And if you are, could you express to us what that ongoing healing looks like? And then also, I'll start with that first, because I don't want to give you too many questions at once. Start with that question first.
Yeah, I think every day, you know, anytime you experience something that's challenging and uncomfortable, you know, like I make mistakes, you know, I had the other, this is a real example. I was tired. I was supposed to get this girl. I forgot. I fell asleep. I called her and I lied. And I said, hey, girl, got stuck somewhere. That was a lie. I got convicted so bad that I had to call this girl back and say, hey, girl, I am so sorry. I actually lied to you. And I really should have just told you the truth. And what Satan wants you to do is to condemn yourself. The Holy Spirit just convicts you, which means you check yourself, you keep it moving. But I had a moment of, you still, girl, you ain't healed. You over here lying. You ain't healed. And so that was and this happened the other day. That was okay, kid, forgive yourself, because forgiving yourself is just as important as forgiving others. And I want to also mention that forgiveness doesn't mean you are saying what they did to you was right. That's not what that is. You're not saying
yourself.
It's just you're releasing yourself from that pain and that weight of what they did. It's not, oh no, well, it's okay. And also, you forgive yourself. That don't mean you still got to be around the person who especially if they're not healed, because they're going to continue to give you soul wounds, because that's what happens in trauma. It creates soul wounds, which attracts demons. And people always say, I'm fighting demons. You fighting that trauma that you went through, and it attaches demons. But going back to the forgiveness, I constantly have to forgive myself. It's times where I'm a little tired and my niece is, well, auntie kid. And I'm like, girl, sit down. I lose, and I'll be like, okay, kid, forgive yourself. So it's a constant thing. I am not Jesus. I will not be perfect. So that means I'm always going to be in a position of having to heal myself. But I don't allow it to go more than a certain time, because that's when you allow something, it starts dwelling and then it becomes a part of you again. So I deal with it right away. Even when I'm mad, I'll call somebody and be like, yo, let's just talk about it. I'll give you the floor. Let me get the floor. That wasn't my intentions. Can we move forward? And I'm not an affectionate person because I really wasn't hugged when I was little. But now, again, I try to do that. I'll be like, let's when we see each other, let me give you a hug. I'm trying to do things that wasn't, like you said, reparent myself. But forgiving, I have to do it all the time.
But thank you for sharing that.
Go ahead, Toya. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One thing I wanted to say, you just said that you weren't loved. And I'm just going to say that I'm a trauma survivor as well. And what you said, we're not victims, we're victors. And sometimes you don't want to share. And I feel that you're in a different place. I'm just listening to you. And I know your family of origin, and you just never know what a person is going through. So what I try to do is, as my approach, is give someone some grace.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't know. And sometimes it's just perspective.
Yeah.
And we don't look at it like that. If you sat back, like you said, when you're being compassionate, you know what? I'm seeing this today. But you know what? I don't know what someone went through before they saw me. So give someone some grace. Yeah. You don't know if someone had an accident. You don't know if they just had a loss. You don't know if they're not feeling well.
Yep.
And I think that sometimes we don't do that. And what happens is sometimes we feel attacked.
Yeah.
But what I try to do now is, you know what? Give someone some grace and I pause. One thing that I've been meditating on is, you know what? When something happens and there are indifferences, it's a time capsule. Sometimes you might need to pause.
Yeah.
Before you react, because I need to respond. And I think that if we do that, because sometimes forgiveness, as you said, is for us.
Yeah.
Because we want to do the right thing. We want to do what's pleasing to God. And sometimes we don't know what we're doing. I just know what my goal is. So if I know that every day with the meditation, it brings me back in so that I can be ready for the world. Yeah. And I just started doing that in the last 2 weeks. Prior to that, I would get up, just face. I had my schedule, but I was losing. And what I'm hearing you today, I'm so proud of you, Kia.
Thank you.
And your mother, I know your mother's listening. And just to see your evolution and know that we all have similar backgrounds.
Yeah.
And the secrets in our families of origin are not discussed. And then just think about that. And I just wanted to I know Dr. Diamond talked about her research. My senior paper was about domestic violence and the women in my family. And sometimes we feel that it has to be sexual, physical. Sometimes it's emotional and economic.
Yeah.
It's still something that occurred. And I think that as African-American women, it's hard for us, people of color, when you're in a role by default. It changes your makeup and how we have to sometimes let go. But I like what you're saying, what you're doing, you're preparing. And I think our listeners are really going to really appreciate that. One of the comments we said, trauma is not your fault. Healing is your responsibility. By Mrs. RYY. I hear you today doing that. You're taking responsibility for what you're doing. And I just know that this is something that's definitely needed in the times of our government. You know, we talk about all kinds of stuff. Don't want to go on a tangent, but I feel that being accepting of all of that and understanding, you know what? I don't know what my story is. I'm going to take what I was given on my plate.
Yeah. And we have to give ourselves grace too. Why is it that we could give a man grace real quick? We could do this, but we can't say it's okay. You messed up. We don't get, but because we weren't taught that. We think, well, I'm going through this hard time. I deserve this. Who told you that? Who told you that? Again, you listening to lies. Just because we Jesus already paid that. The receipt is paid for. We don't have to sit there and stay in condemnation. That's what the enemy wants us to feel like, with that we're not worthy of God's love, or you done did this mistake, you done did this failure, you did this to your kids, you did that. You don't deserve it. Give yourself grace. God thought that you deserved it. He sent his son to die for you. So you don't have the right to sit there in darkness and depressed too long. You can't sit there too long because we don't have the right. We don't have the right to do it. We have the right to see what's wrong, but we need to give ourselves more grace. We'll do it for someone else quickly, but then when it comes to us, we put ourselves in the back of the line, and that definitely has to stop.
I agree with that. 100%. So, how do you see your book contributing to healing and transformation of the Black community?
Well, I would hope that it contributes by giving them a foundation on where to start. And sometimes you got to know something's wrong. You know, some people, I know people who feel like this just life. I'm just going through life. This is just what it is. Yeah. No, who told you that? Like, this is not just what it is. You know, this is what was created. And now you have the power to recreate. We are creators. We are made in God's image. We could create, you know? So the knowledge of knowing, oh, I don't have to feel angry. I don't have to be bitter. I don't have to, you know, I could love myself. Like, no one ever taught me that growing up. I never knew that, you know, my emotions actually ran me. And that's one thing, because, you know, my parents and people around me, you just seen their emotions. If they mad, you seen it. If they angry, you seen it. When they was happy, you seen it. My emotions don't have to rule my life. I'm the ruler. God gave me dominion and authority and power. My emotions, I need to tell my emotions what to do. I don't have to tap into my emotion. I don't have to do that. And that's what fasting told me. I was hungry, but I didn't, like, our emotions can be bullies. It can say, oh, well, you're angry. You stay in that. There's one time I actually said that. My friend was trying to make me laugh, and I said, don't make me laugh right now. I'm mad. What? So that's what you identify with. So sometimes our emotions are our gods, which is an idol in our lives. We don't need to follow our emotions every time. We can actually recreate our emotion and say, you know what? I'm feeling this type of way, but I'm not going to let this emotion take my day. I'm not going to let this take me. I feel it. I'm going to let it out. But I'm not going to, first of all, I'm not going to let it out to the point where I cause trauma and a soul wound in somebody else's life, because this is not their fight. But I'm going to let it out, but I'm not going to let this take no power over me. And that's what I did my whole life. And I thought, well, I'm just real. That's just me. That's kid. That's just how I am. No, that's not just that. No. Like, sometimes we just get into that feeling of, well, that's just me. That's how I am. Like it. It is what it is. No, it is what you tell it to be. So if you are speaking to yourself and you are comfortable with your ugly, you comfortable with your insecurity, your depression, and you don't want to change, then that's the mindset you're going to keep. It is what it is. That's what you're going to keep. But if you change and you say, no, you know what? My emotions is not my God. I am the ruler of my emotions. I'm not going to allow this to take my day, and I'm not going to poison someone else's day, because energy transfers. There's times I walk in the room, and this is why I'm telling you, emotions should not be our God, because I walked in a room with this lady, very nasty spirit, and I was about to leave, because I was like, I ain't got time for this. Like, first of all, it's 9:00 in the morning. Okay. I just talked to Jesus. Like, I need time, you know? And then I was literally about to leave, and I got convicted. Turn around. You're going to let her emotion run you out of here? You are an energy transfer. So instead of her emotion ruling this event, you go over there and you override that emotion. And that's what I did. I had everybody, that same lady over there, laughing. And I said, thank you, Lord, because I was about to let her emotion cause me trauma, and I was about to run out of here. I'm powerful. So I'm like, yeah, no. And I was even talking to her about it. And I'm like, yeah, I felt your energy earlier. And I know you probably went through something. And then I sat there. She was telling me all this stuff. And I said, yeah, you ain't got to allow that to take your day. You can actually say, yep, that happened. That's accountability. But then you say, you know what? But I'm not going to let it continue. And that's the same thing we need to do with emotions.
That's power. That's powerful what you said. I hope that, our listeners are hearing that power that you have there, and with emotions, you're 100% correct. Because when you think about emotions and how it can control you, fear is the biggest one, right? Because fear stops you from going forward to change, because people fear change because they don't know. It's the unknown. So when you have the unknown, you fear it and you don't want to go forward. And that fear will keep you locked into a closet, and then you're not going to move because you're like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. But aren't we supposed to step out on faith?
Yep.
That's the only way you're going to know, because you're going to have to trust God and go out there and say, you know what? I'm going to step out on faith and I'm going to do this. And that's where our healing is. It is where the unknown is. And that's where we have to go. When we go to these places of healing, we have to go to the approach of the unknown. And then on the other side, you'll see the results. So, do you think that that's where you went? Like did you have fear of change, or you did not?
I definitely had fear. Yes. And I realized that fear was glorifying the devil, and faith is glorifying God. So again, I'm rebuilding my relationship now. I want to please God, not the devil. So I was like, all right, because that, to me, I feel like, heaven has a economic system, and faith is the currency of heaven. You can't even please God without faith. So, and everything is a transfer. Everything is a transfer, even down here. I got money, you got product, I transfer. So our money, our currency in heaven is faith. You can't even get that without that, So I was walking in fear so much that doors was closing for me. It wasn't opening. It wasn't good for me. So then I was like, okay, this is not working. I see the business plan that the enemy has for me. Let me rock over here and see what God got for me. So I had to switch my currency. When you go on vacation, certain places, you got to switch your currency in order to be valid. You can't come with a US dollar. You got to be valid over there. So now I'm in a different realm now. So I can't use what I was using in this world over here. So I had to tap into the currency of heaven, which means I had to activate some faith, which means that I couldn't see everything. That's when my trust came in. That's when my word of God came in. And I started thinking, well, what God said. Now, God says that God is a covenant keeping God. He's a way maker. He is all these things, and he does not change. So the same thing he did for the people in the word, the same thing he can do for us. Now, if I put that, and that's my foundation, I believe that's what I'm eating off every day. Mind you, we feeding off something every day. So I'm feeding off what God said and not what I see. So God ain't gonna allow us to outdo him, So we're not gonna have all this faith, and he's gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna allow her just to have this faith and show me up. Like, I gotta give it to her because she look at her. She said, you know what I mean? Like, look at her, So that's what he does. Like, I'll be like, all right, Lord, you said I gotta have faith as a mustard seed. A mustard seed is so small. Like, a mustard seed is so small. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, cool. I done line my principles up. I see what God wants. I see what pleases him. And I started doing all that stuff. Certain things started lining up to where I'm like, okay, I could chill a little bit, Can y'all see me?
Yes, we can see you.
This phone.
Yes.
Yeah, but I concur. Walk by faith, not by sight. Second Corinthians 5:7.
Yeah.
That's it.
We gotta switch our currency, people. Like, what? Look at where you at and switch your currency.
Yes. I want to talk about our young girls, women in general, right? When you think about self-worth. So what's the first step of healing when you think about your self-worth?
The first step of healing is research. You have to know why you feel that way. Why do you feel that way? Why do you have this image of yourself? The first step of building anything is research. You have to do research. You have to know the history of something. to move in that direction. So I would, to answer your question, research.
Dr. Diamond loves history, so that you check.
Yes, I do. I love it so much that it's such it's our story that it gives us a connection of who we are and where we are going. So when you hear people say, "Oh, we don't need to go backwards," no, you have to go forward. Exactly. That's impossible that you have to start right where you are and have no knowledge of what's behind you and then think you're going to move forward. That is not even rational thinking, but you have irrational thinkers and they thinking that, I think it really is ignorance is a bliss, you don't know anything. It is just boom, nothing. There's nothing penetrating through the brain because you're ignorant to it. Instead of just saying, let me take my ignorance and take that and learn from it, because I think a lot of the time people see the word as ignorant as a negative word. It is not a negative word. It's a word of learning. I'm ignorant to you. You're teaching me about you today. It doesn't mean I'm dumb. It means I don't know you. So I'm ignorant to who you are as the person and get to know who you are. And then also, how'd you get to your journey? Now I'm educated about you, at least some parts of you that you were able to let us in today. So now we have some awareness of you, and you also gave us key information to become more aware of ourselves, right? And the importance of forgiveness, even with our parents. And you're so right about that. I connected with you when you said, when you had to go back and do the research. I had to do the same thing with my father too, because I said, you know what? I did, like you, I said, he has a story. He just didn't become this angry person out of nowhere. Where would this come from? Right? Yep. He gave me this whole story. So now I saw him as a human being.
Exactly.
The moment he started talking, it was like he was descending down in front of me. I was like, wow, because he had a story and he took me back to his childhood and then brought me up to where he came and became this person. So I was like, wow, now I see the story.
Yeah, now you understand it more.
Yeah, and you have no forgiveness then, because folks are saying, well, you're such and such. No, the point of the matter is a lot of these men, if they have been incarcerated, they're institutionalized. So the way I look at it, if they're institutionalized, they could not have grown. So I felt that my dad, he always called me Mama Popcorn. We're equals somewhat. He had me at 18. But when I look at that, I have my dad. It doesn't matter. The point is we healed together, we cried together, and we grew together. And that's it. Yeah. So and I'm his eldest. I said, you were a baby having a baby. I said, I'm okay.
Exactly.
And sometimes, folks don't understand our relationship, but I got my daddy. Yes. And now I understand why I was losing, why I accepted things. Because, back then, the men were different. I'm not going to blow a spot right now. But when you observe things in your home, you allow things, and it may affect your self-worth. Because at that time, that's what was going on in the 60s and 70s. But that's not what's going on in 2025.
Exactly.
And I think that as a boy mom, one of the things that I did, I said to him, son, I'm teen girl. If you don't want to be in a relationship, just be single. Because I would not allow my son to have multiple women. Mom, you blowing my spot. No, the point here is that I know what I want for you. And if you're not ready, a woman would hurt you. So that's what I said to him. He was cute. The girls thought he was cute. I said, but I'm not going to allow you to do that to another woman, because I wouldn't want anyone treating to me. Then I said to him one day as he got older, what if you have a daughter one day? Well, how would you want to treat your daughter? That's what I put into him. Yeah. And now he's 24. We have great conversations, but he had to go through that despite not having his dad there. But, I think that as women, we do a lot. And I think that the healing starts here. What we don't like, let's fix it. I don't want to talk about, let's fix it, the intergenerational curses and things that we know were not right. Hugging, because I think that when your family of origin, if there's not love in the home, have you ever hugged yourself? I love the body pillow. Sometimes you got to hug yourself. And I think that if you haven't been hugged and you hug someone, it's a false sense because you're looking for that. So you know what? If I need hugs, then you get them from somebody so that you can feel it in an appropriate way and not in a negative way. Yeah. But these are things we don't talk about.
It's like you saying, like with my mom, I have so much compassion for my mother. My mother was a mother before she was a woman. So we grew up like sisters, you know, like what she listened to, I listened to. What she ate, I ate. She was a mother before she was a woman. So now when I talk to my mom, I don't look at her failures and how she treated me. I look at her and be like, oh, mom, mommy. I'm 38, still call her mommy. It's a respect level because of the love there. Like you, even though you went through that, you still tried your best. And me, thank God I ain't got no kids, because they'd have been all mostly messed up. You know, we have to deal with people with compassion. And to go off of what Dr. Diamond was saying with these little girls, my heart breaks for these little girls because they glorify being a whore. It's whorism now because it's in the music. It's in the, I mean, we had Foxy Brown and Little Kim, but I also had Lauryn Hill, like I had a little balance now. There's no balance. It's just straight up poison. They are receiving what we are feeding them. They glorifying sex and big bodies and all that. Everyone's forgetting about the mind. Everything starts in the mind. They're not trying to be wives no more. They just trying to be savages and get the bag. I said, okay, and the enemy has an agenda, and I see this agenda. They're taking away these little boys. Who gonna be the women? I mean, who gonna be the men? Like it's confusion with the genders and all that. I know it's spiritual. I know it's spiritual. God,
you're in Atlanta. So you see a lot. You're in Atlanta.
Oh, the stuff I see. I mean, I cried one time because I was like, this is crazy. But it's confusion again with identity. If you are confused on, if you are confused about your gender, you definitely don't know who you are. So you're not equipped. You don't have the armor to fight this enemy because you're dealing with that. Satan is very clever, and he starts his traps from childhood. That's why a lot of, I was sexually abused, and I could have ended up a whole different way. That was his plan. Let me mess her up as a child so that when she gets older, she gonna be confused. She gonna be this, she gonna be that, she gonna be mad at the world. All that stuff, he had a plan from childhood because children can't really fight. We're vulnerable. And if you think about a hunter, I'm into lions. You think about a hunter, or if you think about a lioness, they're the hunter of the group. They go out and hunt. They sit still. They watch, observe you for weeks without even coming to attack you. They watch you. And when it's time to attack, they don't go for the strongest one. They go for the calves. They go for the littlest, the baby ones, because that's an easy prey. And then what they do, actually even actual like human hunters, what do? They set up a trap. They give you bait. They say, oh, they research, okay, what does this animal like? Then they get that, and then they put that out at the time that they know you're going to be there, and that's how they catch you. And that's how the enemy works. He sets up bait. He knows baits. He knows our weaknesses. He knows all this stuff. He knows the weaknesses of our forefathers. The same thing my grandmother went through. He's like, okay, she's probably going to go through the same thing because ain't nobody even no one even talked about it. We kept it a secret all our lives because that's just how we are in this family. That's the slogan for a lot of families. So he knows that's how familiar spirits come in, because they know the sins of our bloodline. And they come in and he just repeats and repeats, and he sets up traps, and then he sets up trauma, and then he just messes up our whole life. And that's why we have to change. I see these little girls and I'm like, baby, you're not even trying to get to know who you are. You're not even trying, because you think that how you are now is just how you're supposed to be. You're 13 years old. You got a boyfriend. You having sex. You doing this. You skipping school. You doing all this stuff. And this was a real conversation I had this little girl. I said, who you listening to? What artist you listen to? She said, I love Cardi B. I love Megan Thee Stallion. I said, okay. So the thing with the parents is we got to stop allowing society to raise our children, because society don't want us to be great. So they're going to give us bare minimum. It's not up to society to speak into your children and to tell them that they're great. You have to do it. Stop letting the TV, Netflix, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram raise your children. Yes. Step up, because they're only going to know what they're being fed, and they're clearly being fed poison.
Yes, that is the truth. That is so true. Toy, you have something before? No,
I'm gonna just say that right now, I'm full right now. Just listening to this and just seeing Kia as this vessel that we needed today. Because there's a lot of folks that don't share what they have been through. And now just being able to have our listeners hear and see what it is when you do that inner healing and moving forward and sharing that, parents and understanding your family of origin and understanding the history and talking about that. We have another co-host who also has a book. She's not with us today, Anika. And her sharing, I recall her mentioning having a conversation with the family and just doing her own inner healing. For anyone listening today, write down what is ailing you. Because I know now I'm healing, but I'm on a different realm from where Kia is. And just being a person that went through a sexual trauma in my life and just understanding that and not dealing with it. And I still haven't emerged. And it's crazy because being a facilitator of women's groups, and I think that we hear things, we see things, we experience them, but we don't share, we don't connect them. In order for us to really heal, today what I heard was addressing it head on, erasing it, and knowing that it's not who I am. And I think those uncomfortable conversations is when we birth, because they say pressures make pearls, diamonds, anything that's valuable, those things are cultivated in their mind. And right now we're here as fleshful beings and we don't ever give ourselves that credit. So that's where I'm deep in thought right now. Just, just letting my soul do the talking. And sometimes we just have to be still and know and let our inner self guide us. And that's where the meditation comes in. So, today is just, it's a new day and understanding that our little ones, we need to work on them so that they can be better than who we are today. I don't know what's going to happen in our lifetime. We're seeing a whole lot. It's just that we have to continue to do platforms like this and continue to write and to share to the world what we need to do as a Black and Brown community.
I agree.
And that's why I'm at full today. And just looking at how my day started, I was able to do everything today that I needed to do. With all the upsets. And I think that sometimes, as you said, Kia, when you went into that room, that lady's energy, and that's something that I've observed. I walk into a room just being myself, dating myself. I'm happy for who I am. But when I walk into a room, I'm receiving the energy that's there. And now you're telling me, they say there are spirits in rooms. We don't want to admit it, but what are you going to do when you are faced with the uncomfortable? I keep going. I will go in there. Because at one point, my childhood self would not want to do it. But I feel that my mother rides with me daily. I lost my mother at 7. She rides with me daily. And my mother was 5'2", 98 pounds. And I said, she was a real one. And as I get older, I say I look like her. I'm just a little bit lighter. But I feel that sometimes when we have those spirits and things that we're feeling, it's somebody maybe talking to us so that we can move forward. So if you're uncomfortable, just know that improvement equals perfection. And if you don't feel, as long as you make that point, and by you saying that, kid, you stayed and you turned the room around, the energy, and eventually the person that you met first was the one that gave you that static. But actually, you had to reformulate, and you said you were convicted. And just think about anyone that's listening to us today. Have you felt that conviction in you, and you didn't have the words? What did you do? So maybe I challenge everybody here today, if you're uncomfortable, what are you going to do without it? Sometimes we got to pause so that we can get our thoughts together to be, to respond and not react. And I think that now, if we all just be honest with ourselves, I think we can start today with some change. Because I really liked everything that you said today about what you had to do. You had to go with your history. You attacked it. You said, I am not going to be a victim. I'm going to be a victorious.
You got to do your work. You have to do your work. And I feel bad because this generation, I had a grandma, I had a nana. There's no more big mamas. The grandmas is 30 years old. They both going to the club. They going to the club with the grandkids. The enemy knocking this stuff out. There's no more big mamas. And I think that took a hit on our generation because I had someone praying for me. I had someone, my nana keeping me accountable. Girl, what you got on? Go sit there. Go in that room. That's what we need. We need people to hold us accountable. Don't make me comfortable in my sin. If you see me doing something, don't walk on eggshells. Because how can I break free from that? How can I be better? You not holding me accountable. You just letting me do this because what? Because you scared to speak up. We need to hold each other accountable. We need to deal with each other with compassion, and we need to do some research and not just accept whatever is given to us. Let's do some thought inventory on what we, I think they said that humans have about 6,000 to 12,000 thoughts. All those are not our thoughts. Demons can actually influence our thoughts. But see, I thought that those was my thoughts. So again, knowledge. You gotta prepare yourself. Some things that we hear is not even from us. It sounds like our voice, but you got to get to know your voice. You got to know it. You got to understand your own patterns. It's just so much awareness, like Dr. Diamond was saying. We got to step into the season of awareness, and if we out here, we got to know that we are human beings. We are human, which is flesh, but we are beings, which is spiritual. There's two parts of us. So although we are feeding our human, we got to feed our spirit, because we don't wrestle just between flesh. It's principalities as we dealing with. It's stuff that I've learned this year that I didn't even know. It's a spiritual warfare out here. So we have to have our mind right. We have to have our armor, and we got to know that there's an enemy. We have an accuser. He is taking what we do. He has studied us. He studied your mother. He studied your father. He knows some things from the past that you probably don't know. And he's going to try to use that against us. That's why you have to equip yourself with research and knowledge. Don't let someone use something against you and you ain't even know about it. Think about that in court. You know what I'm saying? Like someone bring up some evidence and you can be like, oh, I didn't even know that they knew that. They have power now. They have power because they have something that you didn't even know about. So we have to equip ourselves to be able to fight. Some of us is not even in the ring right now. We got to get in. I had a dream last year that I was in a boxing room and I came out. I heard Markia, but I didn't hear the other person coming out. And she took off the hoodie and it was me in the dream. So that when I woke up, God was showing me, you've been fighting yourself all your life, but you've been beating yourself up. So it's time for us to give ourselves grace. Stop beating ourselves up. What happened in the past, we can't change it. We could use it and move forward. But give yourself grace. Research stuff. Stop being lazy. Don't be a procrastinator. All that is spirits, and being lazy and having that procrastination spirit, it opens the door to poverty and lack. It's times I was working back to back to back. I'm like, yo, I don't understand. I'm working so much and I'm not seeing no money. Because I was doing a whole bunch of meaningless things. I was working. I was only seeing a check that I worked for, but then I was expecting more. But Kia, you only went to work for 40 hours a week. So that's the check that you're looking at. We're expecting more and we're doing less. We're only going to reap what we sow. So what are you sowing? What are you sowing at the end of the day? What are you pouring into? Who are you trying to speak to? You know what I'm saying? Like, who are you building up? Like, we really have to understand that life is not just about us. When Jesus died on the cross, he ain't do it for him. He did it for us. So half the things that we're going to go through in life is not even about us. It's about someone else who needs that. So we got to come out of that selfish season and be selfless, be more loving and be more understanding, walk in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And we need to thrive and stop surviving out here and being zombies, because that's what we are. We're zombies out here. We're like the Walking Dead.
Yeah, you said that in your book. And I said, I'm walking dead.
Yeah. Yeah. So last question for you is, where can our guests and those that will be coming back to watch On the Couch, where can they get your book?
Yes. You guys can go on Amazon. You can go on Amazon to get my book. I actually deactivated my Instagram because I got distracted, and anything that's distracting me, I get rid of. So I had to censor myself. I'm actually about to reactivate it because I want to post with purpose. I kind of fell back and I started just posting, and I'm like, yeah, what are you doing here? So I deactivated for a while. So I'm actually about to reactivate it by the end of this month. But I am on Facebook, Markia Ashley, and you can get my book. There's a link in my bio. And then also you could just put in Spiritual Suicide, Markia Ashley, and it'll come right up on Amazon.
Sounds good. And then your next book, can you give us a small introduction of what that book is going to entail and where that will be sold?
Do you mean the other book? Like, because there's a book that I already wrote. So there's a book called Good Morning, Holy Spirit. It is a 30-day devotional, and that's on Amazon as well.
Okay.
That it's a 30-day devotional. And it's just speaking into, it's just something that you read every day with scriptures that you, because I'm really big with backing what you're saying with scriptures, go back to the word. And it's a lot of just affirmations and declarations in there, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
before, traditionally for us, when you come on the couch, we always have some parting words for our audience. So we're going to start with you, and then I'm going to work my way to Toya, and then it'll be myself. But what are your parting words for those that listen to us today and those that will be coming back later to listen to our podcast?
My parting words, definitely take life very serious, because it's very, very serious, guys. Like, is this the only life we gonna live, you know? So take it very serious. Do your work. You can't expect anyone else to do your work. You have to do your work, whatever that consists of. Definitely try to write down some things, because when you write it down, you make it plain, it's real. You know, you take your thoughts out of your mind, write it down, and confront whatever it is that you're still holding on to. It may not be your fault of whatever you're holding on to, but like I said, healing is your responsibility. So confront your trauma, heal from it, and just thrive to be the best person that God intended you to be. Live in the truth, not your truth, but the truth, because there's a difference. We can't, you know, oh, it's my truth. I hear that a whole lot with, that's my truth. No, what does God say? So definitely tap into your creator, your source. And I want to thank you, ladies. This platform is amazing. I've been on other platforms, and you guys are detailed in your questions. What you guys are doing, what you ladies are doing, y'all about to open some doors. So I'm definitely gonna be praying for y'all for increase and evaluation. I ask that God just enlarge your both territories, and that you guys, you know, you already walking in your purpose, but you completely, like, you transform, you merge it all the way together, that you continue to help and save souls, because we definitely need you. So thank you so much for the time, for sure.
Oh, you're very welcome, and it was our pleasure to have you on, and you know, we will invite you back here on the couch again. So please know that you will come back. So Toya will reach out to you and say, "Okay, we need you back on this month," you know, because what we like is, first of all, is insight from other Black women as well. We do have like 2 other guys on the panel as well, but you know, my sole purpose is, when I created On the Couch, you know, is definitely to reach the Black and brown community, but more of seeing our faces as Black women, that we can sit and have a conversation without feeling like we're a threat to the next Black woman, because we should never feel that way. As you're bigging me up, I'm bigging you up at the same time, because you went on that journey of writing a book. And it's not easy, because a dissertation is a book. So I know exactly what you went through, how hard it is, and you know, the editing and this, that, and the other. It's a lot of work. So I credit you for also being steadfast, like you kept going forward. So, you know, but I thank you so much for what your kind words about us, and praying for us, and continue to pray for us as we grow on the couch. So thank you so much for that. So Toya, I'm gonna, you know, I love to hear your parting words as well.
Yes, this was phenomenal. It was more than I expected. And I know today it started out right, but I know that when we're uncomfortable, that's when the good things happen. I said, oh, it was more so the connections and all, and then I knew that it was going to go and take us somewhere. And usually we run from an hour to 2 hours, but when we're talking about something good, we just keep flowing. And today, as me watching you morph, as I say, the butterfly room is a place for morphing. And I think that, as Dr. Diamond says, we want to hit these airways on the couch to really talk about these issues so people can really do the inner work. You know, Johari's window is from the sight concept, is the unknown. And sometimes when you're sitting here listening, you hear someone else's perspective. And then we get down to the bottom. Because you know what? You may have not known that that was an issue for you. But today you gave us a lot of gems. And for those, pick up this book, Spiritual Suicide. I had this book for 4 years. I read it, but at that time I really couldn't receive it. but when I read it from its entirety, I read it in a day at the airport. And it ministered something to me that I really needed. And as again, history is the beginning of the origin. So now if you are working on your trauma, it says the dangers of not knowing who you are, this is a good place to start with Markia Ashley's book, Spiritual Suicide, The Dangers of Not Knowing Who You Are. And as we know now, thank you for sharing about the little ones. Think about it. We have all been through something. I think collectively we agree that, as we said on a previous story, we are missing those big mamas. I know that you're a mom T. I've had a mom T's to raise me in that village. And I think that we need to get back to the basics. When you see something, you say something.
Yes.
If you know that someone needs a hug, you just do it. And I think that if we all continue to do that and do the inner works, we will be in a better place. Because right now we are not showing that we're going to see the end times, but I just know that there's a lot of things happening in America. But we need to work in our own community so that we can be great, because these little people will replace us one day. And as you said, where you are in your region, there are mamas and grandmamas and all that partying together. We need to get back to the love and working and shifting these diamonds of what we need to be out in the world, because they're gonna need that to keep our legacy going. And I thank you today. And as I say, if God brings you to it, he'll bring you through it. And today we really took a topic and we let someone who is not as wise as we are, but you really have done the work. And I'm learning from you today. And thank you for watering us on the couch.
You're welcome. Thank you, ladies, for having me. I'm so excited. I just want to say one more thing, kind of piggybacking off of Dr. Diamond. I was raised to hate on my sister. I just was. Not saying someone actually taught me that, but that's what I seen. So you seeing someone else's beauty doesn't take away from your beauty. So let's celebrate each other. Let's clap for one another, and let's just come together.
Yeah, and that's a simple concept. And I've been preaching that as long as I've grown into myself as a woman, growing into womanhood, and making these necessary steps and milestones that we take in life. You can't do anything by yourself. There's a foundation to every single thing. It's just that it's who is your foundation? What circle are you going to remain to have? And then who are you bringing with you? Okay, then that's all about teaching and taking someone with you. And you don't necessarily have to have the reward, because the reward could be the success of the other woman, that they've done something wonderful for themselves, even if it's something small. So for me, that is like a reward, so and that's why I'm big on, helping the next sister, because it's important. Now, do we always get that back? I'm gonna tell the truth. No. I'm more of a threat to people when I shouldn't be. And it doesn't matter, what I have or what I accomplish. What you need to do is ask me how I got there, instead of looking at me as a threat, because I'm not. I'm not a threat. I'm a hood chick that decided that she wasn't going to remain in the hood. Because I had, like you, Toya, I had a mom and my grandmother who saw that education was important. So my challenge was, my aunt was at a master's degree. She said, well, you got to get the PhD. And I had to do it because that's what she said, right? So I went and did it. And again, I had the foundation about education. So today was education, and you brought that for us. You did. And we appreciate that about you, giving us, letting your guards down and talking to us about why you went on the journey you went on. So for us to have that is a treasure. And I hope other women see it as such, because that's what Toya and I see it as. This is something that you gave us. You're younger than us, but you gave us something that we needed to look at too. So now you're giving me a different view on, what you're saying, like the spiritual suicide. Thank you for that, because when I'm talking to some of my clients now, I can talk to them about that and give them a different sight of how to look at their life, and then point them towards your book and say, read this young lady's book. She has something there,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, ladies, I'm going to drop YouTube back in the studio. I'm going to part with my words. But I thank you again, Markia, from, coming on with us today and, didn't find a robbery to spend some time with us today. So I thank you for that again.
Thank you.
So,
Bye, guys.
So for all of our people that are out there on the couch, we want to thank you for joining us this morning. We learned a lot about Markia Ashley Moore and her journey, spiritual suicide, right? It gives you the opportunity to see what that is, understand what it is. But the biggest thing I think that she was really conveying to is begin to trust. Go back to trusting yourself, trust yourself so you can grow. If you don't trust yourself, you can't grow. So you're going to stay idled and trust that you can achieve and you can heal. So trust yourself, and that way you can move forward in life. You can't move forward in life if you don't trust yourself and pour into yourself. And these are the things that she was trying to say. Pour into yourself. Face those demons. Get rid of them. As I say in therapy with my folks that I help with, there's a gremlin sitting on your shoulder. What you have to do is stop feeding that gremlin, because what do? They eat after midnight, and you feed them, then they're going to be with you. And that's how you have to look at it. If you hear these voices, as she stated, get rid of these voices. And the way you're going to get rid of those voices is go and grab your healing. Go after it. Don't be afraid of it, and walk in your truth. Walk in it with no hesitation at all. So for those of you that came on to the couch and sat with us, we appreciate you sitting with us, and those that are coming back to listen to us later, we thank you again. We hope that you learn a lot from Markia Ashley Moore today. And again, spiritual suicide, you go and get her book. It is on Amazon, as she stated. She also has her other something like a journal as well. Go and get that as well on her book. I will ask her for her information so I can post it on the couch page, so that way you can go there and you can get it. And once again, we thank you for joining us. And as always, peace, love, and tranquility. And love yourself, because you can't love nobody else until you love yourself. We thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful weekend, the rest of it. And we'll see you in 2 weeks right here on the couch. Take care, everybody. We love you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of On the Couch. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found it as enlightening and inspiring as I did. Remember, the stories and experiences we share here are just the beginning of a much larger journey. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, look for the notification on Facebook, and find us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us keep the conversation going and reach more listeners just like you. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep the dialogue alive. Peace, love, and tranquility. Take care, and we'll see you on the couch.